Welcome back to another episode of Last One Standing. This is on the LoudMouth MMA Podcast Network. I'm your host of this here show, Kyle Steele. And joining me, we are missing a member, Mr. Keith Schillen. We had a fill-in planned. However, as the nature of this show has been since it's been on the network for the past year, that fell through too. So we're deciding to go with a three-man panel, and it is the three men who are normally on the show. Joining me in no particular order, we will start with Sean Ihaz because he's at the top of my screen. Hello, Sean. Tell us whatever you want to tell us, and tell us where to find you.
Mostly, I want to tell you guys that Keith is clearly scared of us. He is just, he's ducking us. He knows he doesn't answer his questions. He's tired of us calling him out on it. And I suspect soon he's going to leave the show altogether because he just doesn't want to deal with us anymore, just harassing him. And he clearly can't keep up. You can also find me on Twitter at @sniper_DFS, talking all things DraftKings, betting, MMA. I throw some soccer stuff in there. I know nobody cares, but I figure I mention it. Looking forward to talking some more fights. And man, I was really hoping we can get through a whole episode without talking coronavirus. And I looked at the questions 5 minutes ago because that's the only prep I have, and Kyle managed to work it in. So good job. Listen,
I at least worked it in a good way. It's not just about the coronavirus specifically. I worked it in elegantly and classily. I want to put you on the spot.
Mostly bringing that up gets Riley all fired up.
It does, and that's part of the reason why I did it. I will say, Sean, I want to put you on the spot a little bit here. Listen, the people have been clamoring. When is the DFS Express coming back to the network? When is that? When's that happening?
So the DFS Express is now, that's its own podcast I have just for my own channel, talking DraftKings main event breakdowns. I am we have to do a betting type show. I do so much DFS stuff, but it's good I didn't do a betting episode for this last card because it would have been Verdum inside the distance, and the second he dove for that armbar, I fucking left the room cursing.
Listen, I thought Keith was at home with his long-winded non-answers, but that's fine.
Soon.
Fine.
Soon. You want it next week? I mean, not for this card. Saturday. We'll sometime this week for the Saturday card.
And also joining us this week.
Thank you, Kyle. That was accurate.
Thank you very much. Also joining us this week, of course, is Mr. Patrick Auger. Hello, Patrick.
Hey, how's it going?
It's going, my friend. Please tell us where to find you.
Sure. You can find me at The Body Lock, SureDog.com. All Day Auger, spelled AUGER on Twitter. And we're bringing back the old Fight Business podcast on The Body Lock. We're going to talk with a lawyer about one of the questions that we are doing tonight. So you should check it out because that'll be interesting to talk to a lawyer about all that stuff.
Perfect.
Is it Riley's lawyer?
My lawyer.
No, I thought that was you, Sean.
Not civil.
I win cases.
I don't know why you had to spell out your Twitter handle, Patrick, because it is spelled exactly how it sounds, All Day Auger. Everybody should be able to get that. And also joining us last, but most certainly not least, the shirtless wonder himself, Mr. Riley Contact. Hello, Riley.
Hey, Kyle. Good to be here. I think everyone's excited that Keith's not on the episodes. I think this will probably be the most listened to episode since we relaunched the show. And hey, guys, I know Sean has his little betting thing. He does things where he tells you who to bet for. But if you would have been at my website, we were 9-2 over the weekend, and Sean did not do very well. So fuck Sean's website, and my website's okay. It's a .blog, but just because it's a .blog doesn't mean it doesn't have merit.
At least when you go to my website, a bunch of shirtless dudes don't pop up.
Listen. I agree, but shirtless dudes sell, especially with the broads, and I'm not going to apologize for that.
Well, if you say that, Riley, but I have tons of shirtless photos out there, and I haven't got much respect for them. So,
no, because you've got fucking titties, and I have man breasts.
Good job.
The wine makes me quick, sir.
Yes, it does.
All I can think of is Kyle shirtless on one of his real estate posters.
How do you think I've sold so many houses?
Here. If you don't want to buy a house here, I'll be your agent.
I promise I don't live in this neighborhood.
Each home comes with a free motorboat, and no, it's not the one you're thinking. All right, let's get to the actual questions. Let me explain real quick. So normally we do 3 questions is round 1. Round 2, we have the first ranked person going up against the fourth ranked, 2 versus 3. We're not doing that this week because we don't have 4 people. So we're going to go through the first 4 questions. That'll be round 1, so to speak. And then I'm just going to drop one person off, Willy Wonka style, and then it'll be 1v1. So let's see who falls in that chocolate river.
Willy Wonka style because you look like an Oompa Loompa?
Listen, that's 3 now. That's 3 now. So
I feel like he's scoring actual points getting to the finals.
The funny part is it's helping him, but it shouldn't be helping him, and I probably shouldn't tell him that. All right, first question this week. There are a lot of takeaways from UFC 249, but of course, possibly the biggest was Henry Cejudo's surprise retirement announcement. Of course, there are multiple angles to look at this. We're going to focus on, is it real? Is he actually retiring? There is some precedent. They talked about it in the broadcast. There is some precedent for him leaving a sport in which he is elite and walking away when he's still elite. So I think there's more to this than just saying yes or no. I'm interested in your guys' opinions. We will start with Sean. Again, he just happens to be at the top of my screen. So, Sean, you got 45 seconds on the clock. You know what? 60 seconds on the clock. We only got 3 people here today.
Jesus.
I'm changing the rules. 60 seconds.
Nobody
60
has 60
seconds on the clock.
Material steal.
60 seconds on the clock. Mandatory rebuttals. If you guys keep talking, we're going to go 3 rebuttals per round. All right, go ahead, my friend. You got 60 seconds.
If we had 3 rebuttals, the last one would just be, you want to hear the most annoying sound in the world for 60 seconds. Henry Cejudo.
Do you have a recording of Keith's voice? I didn't know you had it with you.
Oh, the times are upon us.
Already off the rails.
I will restart your time, Sean. Go ahead.
Shit, I was hoping you wouldn't. All right, Henry Cejudo's surprise retirement announcement. Is this for real? I think it's starting out with no. I think it is a shoot. I think he does want more money. He did negotiate. If you saw the John Jones tweet, stole Riley's thunder, mentioned John Jones first. He's just trying to get more money. However, if he doesn't get it, and I kind of don't think Uncle Dane is going to give it to him, we very possibly could not see Henry Cejudo again. I think he thinks he's worth more than he is. Go ask Demetrius Johnson. Doesn't matter how good you are, you don't sell. And I think he's almost fallen into this Colby Covington range where it's got a lot of shtick, but doesn't actually sell when you look at the numbers. So is it for real? Right now, I don't think he thinks it is, and I think it could very well turn real when he doesn't get the money he wants, because then why not walk away? I also don't think he wants to fight a Piotr Jan or Aljamain Sterling unless the money is right. And again, my gut tells me he's not going to get it, because frankly, the divisions are better off without him.
All 60 seconds, baby. Look at you, Mr. Patrick Auger. Next up, my friend.
So I'm going to go the other way with it. I would say it's very real. I think, again, in terms of he made it very clear that he wants more money, and this is all just one big contract negotiation, as Sean put. But yeah, I think it's more than likely in the short term, it is going to be real, because I doubt Dana's going to give him the money, especially given how well UFC 249 apparently did in the pay-per-view buy rate. According to Sports Business Journal, it's up to $700K, which is insane. So Dana certainly doesn't need him to stick around. I don't think he's going to get that renegotiation up front. However, I think, 2 to 3 years off, I bet he comes back. I bet he ends up, coming back for a super fight when there is a lull. Maybe if the bantamweight division is a little less crowded, I bet he ends up coming back and getting a title shot immediately, or they build something around him. I could totally see that. So I think it's real right now, and I think eventually it's going to end up being not so real when he comes back in a couple of years. But I'd say I don't think you're going to see him in at least 2 years.
Mr. Riley?
Well, first off, I'm not going to answer the question in honor of Keith, because I think I told Keith this would do very well on pay-per-view. And as Mr. Auger just told you, that this is tracking like 700,000 pay-per-views. That's way more than your average pay-per-view. So Keith Schillen, you can go take a jump in the lake, because I said it would play very well in the pay-per-view market, and you said it wouldn't. And I was wishing you were here to say that, but it's not going to happen because you're a coward. That being said, do I think he will fight again in the next year or two? I do think he will. I agree with both of my colleagues that I do believe he's trying to get more money on his contract. But already on Twitter, he's calling out Ryan Garcia for a boxing match. The problem is that even if he is, shut up, even if he is, retired, quote unquote, he can't take a boxing match outside of his UFC contract. So he's still looking to fight. He's clearly just having a bargaining chip when it comes to renegotiating his contract.
I will say, before we go into our rebuttals, and I'm hoping this doesn't spur more conversation, but Keith's main point is that he's the star of the show, and we have spent more time talking about him than the actual first question. So,
Fuck Keith and the horse he rode in on.
Let's be fair. That's 2 F-bombs now. We try to keep it PG-13. You can have 1 F-bomb in a PG-13. I don't think you can get to 2 and still have it be PG-13.
That's actually been 4, but go on.
Okay. But who's keeping count?
Minimum.
Sean, you get your rebuttal, my friend. Go ahead.
I may have to rebuttal to what you just said, clearly, because we're just here to take shots at him because he's not as good as he thinks he is. Just got to keep cutting the man down, chopping the legs like, correct. I don't know, who gives a shit? Like Jorgen De Castro should have done to Greg Hardy before he broke his foot. Anyway, the rebuttal for this one, I think we've all kind of said the same thing. I don't think he's going to come back in a few years. I think bantamweight is really stacked. In a few years, I can't see this opening up. I mean, I know a couple of years is a ways away, but there's a ton of talent. 135, it's a pretty common weight class. It's not like you're more scarce to get guys down at 125 and 265. It's a hard division. It's always been full of a lot of players, and as the UFC expands overseas, typically in places with smaller people, you're going to get more and more. It's going to get more crowded. I think if it's for real, I think it's very smart of Henry Cejudo. It's the smartest thing he's done. Go out on top, gold medalist, all these championships, those dumbass pillows. He's got a little bit of name behind him. Don't go get a loss tagged out on you. He's not the level of Conor McGregor. This is good. It would be good for his long-term financial stability if he was done.
So I'll ask you, because we all do kind of agree, so let's try to get some separation. So real quick answer. Everyone kind of said he's going to come back at some point, so let's focus on that piece of the question. Sean, when do you think he comes back?
I don't think he's going to.
You don't think he comes back at all? Okay.
No, I think he thinks he's coming back, and he's not going to get the money, and he's going to go away. Will he do boxing maybe for, whore out? Possible. But I think he thinks he's coming back, and he won't get paid, so he won't.
All right, perfect.
Well,
Patrick.
I want to answer this before Patrick, because Sean's saying he might go to boxing. He can't. He is contractually under the UFC. Even if he is retired, he cannot box until that contract.
Even if he's retired, I see. I didn't know that part. Did not know that.
Okay,
I'm sure
welcome.
He could
take 5 points.
I'm sure he could make a financial deal in 2 years and say, "Hey, here's $1 million of what I'm going to get from boxing. Let me out of this." I'm sure he could do that.
Boy, all right, you are really playing Henry Cejudo up here. Can he do that? Patrick, go ahead.
I don't think he goes to boxing unless it's under Zuffa Boxing. Honestly, I think that would be the only way that works out.
That's still a thing.
Huh? It's
still a thing. Weird.
Yeah, he says it's still a thing. We'll see if it actually comes to fruition or not. But he's said that even though it's on hold or they're taking a step back, my guess is it is once Endeavor, gets some money, which it sounds like they got a bunch over Saturday. So I think it'll happen. But I don't see Cejudo. I don't see White giving Cejudo the satisfaction of releasing him for the contract to go box for anybody else. And I think Cejudo misses it too much. I think he'll be happy a year or two away from it. But I think after that, he loves the attention. He loves the King of Cringe stuff he does. And his star will only fade the less he fights. He'll call people out. Nobody will say anything. It'll be whatever. And then I think in 2 years he gets pissed off and he jumps right back in at either flyweight or bantamweight. I think to Sean's point, if bantamweight is too crowded when he wants to come back, I think he goes back in at flyweight. And if that's still around at that point, I think he could easily jump in there at any point. So that's what I think.
Give me your hard fast. You said within 2 years, at 2 years, a year. Give me your hard fast opinion.
I think 18 months to 2 years. That's the window I give him.
All right, Riley.
I'd say by the end of 2020, I think he'll do it. Listen, he's negotiating, and I know Dana's already said he wants to fill that bantamweight title as quick as possible, but he's just trying to get title fights as quickly as possible because he's trying to headline cards that he has to do at a very quick rate. I think Cejudo will fight in 2020. Obviously, I think it would be later in 2020 based on what he had to do in what month we're already in. We're already in the 5th month of the year. But I think he will. And, 25, 35, it doesn't matter. And to go to Sean's point, he mentioned Aljamain Sterling. I don't know why Henry Cejudo would be afraid to fight Aljamain Sterling. I am a big Aljamain Sterling fan, but there's nothing that he presents that Cejudo cannot defend against and is not better than, other than maybe pure athleticism, which actually might not even true be either because he's a fucking Olympian. So,
all righty, good rounds, folks. Let's try to stick to the questions. Let's try not to interrupt each other. Let's try not to have weird sidebar conversations in
now
between.
that Keith's not here.
Yeah. Look at who's trying to be a real host. This is bullshit.
You guys are such pricks.
Get the fuck out of here.
You guys are. That's all right. That's the 6th one now. All right. Second question. Tony Ferguson's win streak has come to a screeching halt by the way of Justin Gaethje late finish. Pretty simple question here. Where does Tony Ferguson go from here? Do you truly believe the narrative that this has taken quite a bit away from him, that he's not going to be able to recover from the type of beating he took or not recover as well? Just in everything in there. Is Conor in the picture? Just give me an idea of where you think Tony goes from here, and give me an idea of how you think he will be once he does fight again. Is he going to lose a step? So on and so forth. Patrick, you're up first for this one. 60 seconds.
So I can't say he definitely took a beating. He definitely ate a lot of shots. But I never like to say that a fighter is going to, be changed after something, because I've seen fighters, I've seen their chin just disappear seemingly out of nowhere. And I've seen guys go through wars and been like, oh, he's for sure screwed next time out. And then chin's fine and he hasn't lost a heartbeat at all. So I think at this point, it's too early to say that he's going to have, lost a step based on that fight. He looked really good. I mean, Gaethje made the adjustments and came back and overtook him towards the end of the fight, but he still looked just as dangerous as ever. I think it was just a stylistic nightmare for him. But with that being said, I think the future lies in either a Dustin Poirier fight or the winner of maybe, honestly, Charles Oliveira. I think that would be a great one too. If you got submissions going on, that would be an amazing fight. I don't see Conor in the picture because I think Conor right now has positioned himself to either be in a number one contender shot or a title shot. So unless they're willing to give Tony that seconds. Step up again, I don't see Conor in the picture at all at this point.
Mr. Riley.
I somewhat agree with Patrick. The most thing being that I think the next fight for Tony is definitely Dustin Poirier. So I definitely agree with Patrick on that. We had talked about damage. Like Tony Ferguson took a lot of damage in that fight. Tony Ferguson's taken a lot of damage in a lot of fights, and he's still Tony Ferguson. So I don't necessarily think the amount of punishment he took in that fight, someone's talking about it was taking years off his life. Well, how do you know that? I mean, the man's taken damage in every fight he's taken. Orlando Venata rocked him multiple times in their fight, and he's not even in the top 25. So, and not only that, it was a 5th round knockout, so yeah, he took a lot of damage. Ferguson is still a contender as far as I'm concerned. Does he get Conor next? No. As I've said, I think he's got Poirier next. But here's the thing. With how elite he was and how much he's been a contender the last 4 or 5 years, he's still a fight or two away from maybe being a contender. All he has to do is rebound off of this loss, and he's still technically in the talks. So as much as I enjoyed Gaethje knocking him out because he annoys me sometimes, I think he's still there.
Last but not least, Mr. Sean.
Yeah, I pretty much agree. I don't think he's going to get he's not going to get McGregor or Nurmagomedov. I don't think it's there. I don't think it's going to be Dustin Poirier though. Poirier is a guy who's going to fight relatively soon, and Ferguson, I don't know. I mean, the psychopath's going to want to come back soon, but he's probably going to have a 6 month mandatory suspension if he hasn't gotten that already. I haven't read that yet. Following the fights, I would imagine Poirier is going to fight within 6 months. So that to me takes that fight off the table. Who does it bring up? I don't know. Somebody like Dan Hooker makes sense to me. Dan Hooker maybe Paul Felder unless they have fights booked. I don't think so, but somewhere in that range. And everyone plays this game of, yeah, Tony's Tony, so on, so on. He keeps doing this. At some point, the human body can only take so much. You're going to go to sleep. We all said Damian Maia can't be knocked out, doesn't get knocked out, and Gilbert Burns flatlined him. It's coming from Tony Ferguson. It affected his longevity. Is it next fight? No, but every fight takes something out of you. Go listen to Kamaru Usman on Joe Rogan. Every fight does something, and this one took a little extra out of Ferguson. But he has it in human place to start with.
Thanks, Keith, for going over your time.
Mr. Patrick.
You know what? Someone
says Riley, who went over his time quite a bit, too. So, Patrick.
I don't recognize time.
At least I spent my time answering the question.
Patrick, rebuttal time. Specifically, if you're predicting it's Poirier, how does he do in that fight? And again, does this fight have any effect on that fight, do you think? If it's not Poirier, kind of like what Sean had said, that just the timelines don't match up. Is there anybody else that jumps out to you?
Yeah, so if it's Poirier, I think that's also a dangerous matchup for Tony. I think it's a bad stylistic matchup, especially with how much Poirier's improved. His boxing has been ridiculous. He got knocked out by Michael Johnson, woke up a brand new man. So I think Tony would run into some trouble there. I think it'd be a little bit more competitive than Tony Gagey, where it might go right down to the wire, but I think Poirier still edges it. If it's not Poirier, which, it could not be because it was supposed to be Hooker Poirier in San Diego originally, I could see them making that fight, although Tony is crazy enough to come back within 6 months, regardless of this happening, because that's Tony. But if it's not Poirier, I think it's Charles Oliveira. I mean, honestly, just thinking about that matchup, the style, Oliveira's on a tear. The submission games that those two could play would be nuts. I think that's just a really, really fun fight. That would be a great example of
10 seconds.
Jiu-jitsu being fun. So I love Oliveira versus Ferguson personally. If you're not going to do Poirier.
Speaking of fun jiu-jitsu, I'm a little upset I couldn't fit a Bryce Mitchell question in here, but that's all right. Riley.
So to go to Sean, I didn't say that the timelines matched up. I just said that Poirier-Ferguson would be the best matchup coming out of this. I don't necessarily disagree that their timelines aren't going to actually be together. But and another thing, I'll agree with Sean. Me and Sean are just a kindred spirit, I suppose. I agree. There's at some point you can only have your bell rung so many times, and Ferguson has had his bell rung a ton of times. Again, you're getting fucking clipped by prelim fighters. At some point you're going to take on a guy who can do it. And, Gaethje obviously was that guy. To touch on both of you guys said Dan Hooker should be his next guy just based on timelines and he was supposed to fight. There's a reason Dan Hooker can't fight right now. And the big reason for that is that he's not allowed to travel right now. So I don't think Dan Hooker is even an eligible guy to be fighting Tony Ferguson. We don't know how long this lockdown is going to happen or this travel ban is going to be for, as I knock over my wine, found it. And, but here's the thing. If Ferguson does need 6 months off, there's plenty of options for him. Lightweight is a stacked division. And I will actually give Mr. Auger a little bit of a tip of the cap and say I would love to see a Charles Oliveira fight in the same way that I'd like to see my girlfriend with another lady having an ice cream sandwich.
How am I supposed to go next?
I don't know. Go ahead. Give it a shot.
Sweet. I mean, you know what?
That was my rebuttal.
I get my rebuttal, dumbass. Anyway, the one thing I can think of that is better is Fight Island, and that's where Dan Hooker could fight him. I think Fight Island is better than Riley's girlfriend or the girl on an ice cream sandwich, but I don't know what his girlfriend looks like. We can have a conversation, I guess. God, that threw me so far off. Look, lightweight is fun. It's always been fun. Ferguson, I don't think he's going to touch gold ever again. Maybe he'll get another interim shot, but I think this was it for him. And you know what? I'm glad he lost, not because I hate him, even though I do find him a bit irritating. I'm glad because maybe without the possibility of Habib Tony, we won't have another mother bleeping pandemic. I blame them. That's it. That's all I got. Ice cream sandwiches.
All right. So, you know what? We'll do something we don't normally do. It's a very weird show. I'll give you scoring updates, and you cannot respond. You have to just listen to the scoring updates,
If Riley's not winning, I don't know what the show.
Keep yourselves on mute. Don't even respond to it. We'll move on to the third question. Coming in third place is Sean. Coming in second place is Patrick. Coming in first place is Riley. All right. Good. You guys did so good. Good job, guys. All right. Coming in.
How many
Third
bonus
question.
points did he get for the ice cream sandwich bit?
Listen, don't worry about it. I will say I expected you guys to gravel, so it kind of threw me off a little bit, threw my timing off. Third question, again, simple question here. Did UFC 249 legitimately live up to expectations? This fight card was wildly hyped. We haven't had fights in forever. This card was touch and go. It's been moved several times. Even the week of the card, the day before, we're thinking, is this thing going to get scrapped last minute? So the hype surrounding this card, surrounding the fights on the card, it's stacked top to bottom, was just massive. So it's really hard to live up probably to that exact expectation. But to live up to your personal expectations and give me a grade. What grade would you give the card, A through F? And first up is Riley on this one.
Well, as a former teacher, if you can believe it or not, I actually am going to give it an A. Because we never give anybody an A+. Really enjoyed the fights thoroughly. I mean, I can't remember, and maybe because I was drunk, I can't remember a fight that was actually boring. There were some finishes on the main card. The early cards had some good stuff. I really thought the Gaethje-Ferguson fight was very good. I mean, even like Cejudo Cruz was not boring. I think everything there was very, very solid. We had finishes. I was wearing a Jeremy Stevens shirt, and he got brutally knocked out. And even I had to look at that knockout like, wow, that was a great knockout. I just don't remember being bored, and it's maybe because I haven't remembered what fun is for the last 3 months or whatever this has been. But I really enjoyed it. I spent money on the pay-per-view. I did not regret spending money on the pay-per-view.
10 seconds.
I loved it, and I'll just leave it at that.
Mr. Sean.
I'm going to go A-, and it's because I'm nitpicking. It is absolutely nitpicking. I don't want to agree with Riley everywhere. The Esparza-Watterson fight, I think, wasn't a bad fight, but wasn't a great fight. It had some funky scorecards. And, and the Hardy DeCastro fight, DeCastro got hurt, or that fight could have been a lot better. Now, those are just nitpicking, and, I'm not going to hold a decision against Pettis Cerrone, but I was hoping for a finish in that fight. We're looking for a finish there. So if I'm really nitpicking, but you got a great performance by Justin Gaethje. You got Francis Ngannou killing a man. Like that's the kind of stuff I'm here for. So great card. Don't regret spending money on it. Like I said, just little things. Go think of an A+ card. I think card of the year, and I think just without the extenuating circumstances, very, very, very good card. Maybe gets bumped up because I hadn't remembered what watching fights and having fun was like. It was a much needed break. I think for all of us. I'll answer the rest of the question in the rebuttal. I don't want to go over and get yelled at.
OJ all day.
Sorry, I'm still reeling from the fact that Riley was a teacher at some point and trying to figure out, all right. Anyway, right. So
that was a good one.
Did you wear a shirt in class?
No.
Why do you think he's not a teacher anymore?
So, right, question.
Your time started over.
Yeah, okay. I would go also an A-. With Sean, same type of thing. Although for me, the big thing for me was the judging. Again, the inconsistent judging. Luckily, it didn't ruin this card, and there was a bunch of great stuff there. But you had a 30-27 for Watterson, a 30-27 for Esparza. It's one of those things where if it had been a really close fight between Gaethje and Ferguson, how would the scorecards have gone? I don't want to see anybody get robbed. That they really need to get better at judging. But that's the only complaint I have. Otherwise, a great time. It was fun. I mean, I have fun outside of this because I have a life, unlike I guess these two. But it was a good time. I enjoyed it. Really enjoyed it.
I will say one of my big complaints with judging. I've outlined exactly what I think they should do with judging to make it better, and one of the things was being in a kind of quarantined area where you can't be influenced by crowd noise. Well,
That didn't help.
Well, we just proved that didn't matter because crowd noise wasn't remotely a factor here. So I don't know exactly what you do to fix judging at this point, because that would have been one of my biggest things I would have said makes the issues. Riley, rebuttal time. Let's specifically address the living up to expectations aspect of the question for everybody.
Okay, other than me making my girlfriend give me another glass of wine, I want to address Patrick. I have a life, so I did this. You have a life outside of fucking quarantine? There was nothing else to do. There's no other sports on. So I know people like you probably have never played a sport seriously in your life, but people like me like to watch sports because we were actually good at them at one point. So it didn't matter. I mean, if the fights sucked, the fights would have sucked. I would have said it. I would have still watched them. But yeah, there was definitely, I will agree with Patrick on one thing, who apparently knows what judging is, which makes sense because he looks like a 10-cent lawyer. There was some judging discrepancies in the fights, and two of them were for fights I had actually picked the winners of. I said that Verdum was going to beat Olenek, and I think he got robbed. And I think that I said that Cowboy was going to beat Pettis, and he got robbed as well. And if it wasn't for those two judging decisions, I would have been 11-0. And Sean Ihaz would have been like, hey, this guy needs to be on my betting website as the shirtless winner. And by the way, even though I was a teacher, I did wear a shirt occasionally.
I will say that I probably should have announced to the podcast when we started that we did have Uncle Rico officially on the podcast there. Sean, rebuttal, my friend.
I'm just going to block that out and stick right to questions. Does it live up to expectations? Yes. I know you can't say it fell massively short. It was a great card. It was fun, and it got everybody watching sports again. Gave the grade of the card already A-. Best moment. I mean, I'm not going to go with the title fight. Too easy. Best moment, Francis Ngannou. Maybe that's too easy too. But I mean, who doesn't love watching combat sports? Who doesn't love a knockout like that? Unbelievable. Can't wait to see him challenge for a title. Worst moment. What the mother? He's losing to guys like Alexei Olenek. That was sad to me. Just absolutely sad. Going for whatever ridiculous armbar you're trying to go for in the second round. Yes, it cost me money. But still, watching a former UFC heavyweight champion fall to Alexei Olenek, disgusting. Worst moment.
Watching Riley's girlfriend pour his wine for him might have been my favorite moment of any podcast I've done on this network. That was absolutely glorious.
I paid handsome money for that lady.
Can I get? I don't know if you can get bonus points for that, but I guess you are. I guess you can because I make the rules. So
took away all the great points I was making.
Yeah.
Riley's girlfriend or wife or whoever comes in with a bottle of wine and an ice cream sandwich.
I think is the name.
I think
Oh, Ajay, you're cruising for a bruising, kid. As much as I say that.
Go ahead, Patrick.
So I just want to point out to Riley that Magic the Gathering was on ESPN at one point. So I am an athlete. So I'd like you to just do whatever you need to do there. But yeah, you're looking at a pro.
All right, flimsy wrists.
In terms of the actual question, yeah, I lived up to expectations for sure. I'd say my favorite best moment was watching. I don't think I've had that much fun watching a ground game in MMA in forever. Just watching the scrambles between Bryce Mitchell and Charles Rosa. Like that made anyone that's been like, oh, I hate it when they go do jiu-jitsu and they just lay on top of each other. Like that right there is what you show them in terms of being like, this is fun to watch. This is crazy. It's nuts. Worst moment. Yeah. Worst moment to me was again probably just the overall judging. Bruce Buffer just getting pissed as hell, and you could just tell in his voice when he was reading off the scorecards. But yeah, other than that, sure, lived up to everything. Riley sucks.
Annoyed Buffer is a good moment.
Yeah,
and the people, not part of the question, the people trying to fist bump Bruce Buffer and throwing the elbow out. Solid moment.
Patrick, have you had a chance to? I don't know. I doubt they still do them now, but the big Power 9 tournaments they did in New York, where you got to proxy in a Power 9, and they had the big 500-person tournaments.
No, I've not.
I'm a nerd. I
Right.
don't know what you guys are talking about.
Am I not like privy to this nerd shit? Like, what the fuck are you guys
I
talking
just
about?
said
Play a
I'm
fucking game of baseball.
Does-
for
That's like
Christ's sake.
15
Jesus.
F-bombs.
Does Patrick know what Power 9 is?
I've heard of Power 9, but I
was
couldn't.
like, that was all I cared
Yeah.
about.
You
as long
both
as he
just
hit it.
disqualified yourself from being men. So
Well, okay. Let's. This is the fourth and final question before somebody gets out of here. And honest to
Thank God.
it might just be whoever I like the least. I think at this point, that's kind of where we're at. So we have 2 fight cards coming up. We have one on Wednesday. We have one on Saturday. What is your favorite fight from both cards? What is the fight you are least excited about, just in general? And then which card do you prefer? We will go back around to Sean.
All right. I mean, look, I'm going to start backward. I'm going to start last question first. The card on Saturday is by far better. Like it's not even close. The co-main event is on Wednesday is OSP and Ben Rothwell. Like there are some better fights on the Saturday card. Starting with the Wednesday card in terms of what fight I like best. Probably, I mean, I like grappling, so give me Ray Borg, Ricky Simone. Ricky Simone is the constant pressure guy, lots of action, always moving, scrambling. Ray Borg's always in scrambly type of fights. I think that is going to be a really fun one. And then on the Saturday card, that one is, I think people will cop out and say Overeem Walteris. I'm not going to tug on heartstrings this time. I want to see Edson Barbosa, Dan Ige. Barbosa is always fun, tons of striking, and Dan Ige is a prospect I've been very high on. Barbosa sliding. I think Ige's got a chance to make some noise in that division. And Barbosa, by the way, going down to 145. Who the hell knows if he's going to make weight? So that's a little bit of extra juice to that one. So those are the fights I like best on each of those cards. But they're thin cards, but hey, give me fights, man. And I do think Saturday's better overall.
Mr. Patrick?
Yeah, Saturday is by far the better card. It's ridiculous. It's not even close. Wednesday I will tune in because I want to watch fights, but I would not if this was just a regular fight night. If we were not in a pandemic and this was just regular Saturday, like man, this fight card on Wednesday would suck. I think the best fight on each is probably for me, Alex Hernandez versus Drew Dober, I think is a great fight. I'm excited to see where that goes for Wednesdays. For Saturdays, I mean, you've got a lot more choices here, but the clear winner to me is Song Yadong versus Marlon Vera, which is just going to be a banger of a fight. If you haven't been following these two, I mean, they've been on tears. I can't wait to see it. It might be a quick knockout, but my guess is it's going to be a back and forth brawl. So Song Yadong versus Vera is the overall best fight for me. Worst fight overall that you could happen on these two cards is definitely Rothwell versus OSP. Rothwell has looked not good at all since he came back. OSP going to heavyweight, I can't imagine what that's going to look like. So sounds like an interesting move by OSP, but no thanks.
Mr. Riley?
Well, as stated many times, I'm looking forward to any fight that we can get on TV because sports. Unfortunately, Patrick went before me, so he took my favorite fight of the entire week. It does come from Wednesday. Alexander Hernandez versus Drew Dober is going to be the bee's knees, and I only say that because I've only sworn like 75 times on this podcast so far, so I had to say bee's knees. I feel like I have a fruit myself. But if you want to go for a Saturday card fight that I'm really looking forward to, I like young guys. I like young guys who have good potential. I like Anthony Hernandez versus Kevin Holland. A couple of good strikers, a couple of tough guys. Both cards are good. Come on. Listen, Patrick, I get what you're saying, but the fact is that we have been UFC-less for a long time. We've been sportless for a long time. Any card we can get is a good card. I'm looking forward to both of them. And also, I think you also said his name was Song Yadong. We pronounce it here in the American version. His name is Yadong Song, and get out of my face.
Sean, your rebuttal, sir?
I mean, I'll just hit on my least favorite fights of the cards. Wednesday, sorry, I'm not really looking forward to Courtney Casey and Mara Romero Barella. They've each lost 3 of their last 4, and okay, I guess. For the Saturday card, I mean, there's not a ton of fights that I'm loving here. I'm actually had one picked out, and my page just lost on me. So Kyle's clearly going to knock me out for this very intentional stalling. I wish I was good at it as Keith was. That was Saturday's card. See, I'm screwing this whole thing up. You know what? It could be the main event. Quite honestly, I'll be contrarian here. Anthony Smith, Glover Teixeira. I mean, I guess so. It's not really doing it for me. Anthony Smith is a product of light heavyweight. Glover Teixeira is a million years old. Either way, I'm going to be sad how this fight ends. I think I'm going to walk away Wednesday. Like many of my ex-girlfriends walk away, like just disappointed, high expectations, and memories of fond times we used to have. No, not dry. I mean, there's a lot of saliva in here. But, yeah, Anthony Smith, Glover Teixeira, not really doing it for me. I don't like the main event. I really don't. I'd rather watch, Roberson Vittori than Smith Teixeira. I'm just not looking forward to the main event. I'm really not.
Sean, it is very, very cute that you felt like your ex-girlfriends had high expectations. Patrick, rebuttal?
Or that he actually had girlfriends in the past.
All right, so here's the deal. Yeah, I agree with Sean 100% on I'm not looking forward to that fight either. But you know what? Here's the thing. Riley has clearly torpedoed himself yet again. I mean, he's made it R-rated. He's been just ridiculous all show long. He's been pretty terrible. Once again, was in the lead. I could just see him being knocked out. But you know what, Riley? You come here every week. You come back, even though you get knocked out. You get last place every week. You know what, buddy? Not today. I'm going to tap out. I'm going to make it easy. I'm going to send you to the finals, baby. You did it, baby. You did it. Congrats, baby. Woo!
Riley, your rebuttal?
Don't be so fast. I will talk about the Willie Lynch papers or something in history to completely just not talk about MMA. But
let's talk about the Whiskey Rebellion, Riley.
Oh, gosh. I want to talk about Francis Bacon before that. But I was a history teacher, guys. I know who the fuck Francis Bacon is.
Yes.
20.
I just want to say two things. Number one, if you're asking what the worst fight of a two-fight of a week, a single week, we have two fight cards. You're asking what the worst fight is after we didn't have fights for like a month. We just got a great pay-per-view. I don't care if the fights suck. I just want to watch some sports. It could have been, Tiger Woods, trying to throw a pass to Tom Brady, who's also an unathletic idiot. I would have watched it. And by the way, R-rated only means Riley rated, and the Riley brings big ratings to this network.
This is absolutely ridiculous. I like how
Kyle, if you send him, you're gonna lose. If you send him, we're all dropping F-bombs every other answer next week. And if you don't, I don't know what Patrick's tap out means.
This is what's really unfortunate for Pat.
The F-bomb for me means fun.
Listen, this is what just happened. What just happened was that Patrick was winning the question, and then he taps out. So I got to drop him to a 1, which then means he's now tied with Sean. Riley still remains in first with I won't give you my scores on my end, but Riley remains in first. But I got a tie between Patrick and Sean. So we're going to settle this the old-fashioned way. Patrick and Sean.
You say pick a number. I'm driving to Dayton.
We're gonna.
I'll ask a question.
Riley gets to ask. Riley.
Which one of your girlfriends is fresher in the morgue?
All right, Riley. Can you actually think of a John Jones related question to ask them that they get 30 seconds to answer?
Yeah, sure.
Give it to me.
Do you think, in your opinion, based on past behaviors and how people can change, this is a humanities question, do you think that John Jones was the same man at Iowa Community College, or do you think that perhaps once superstardom became into his reach, he changed a little bit? He went from the man with the Philippines tattoo to a man who may have been following some not so great idols.
All right, so Sean. Patrick, you get to answer the question first because you torpedoed. So you get to answer the question first. You go ahead, buddy.
Okay. Let me. Yeah, Yeah, I think he was probably, the same dude. I think he probably changed it a little bit because your brain's not fully formed until you're 26, something like that. So he probably grew more into that same arrogant dude that he is. But I think he's always had those tendencies, and I bet Iowa College just made him more like that. So yeah, that's what I'm rolling with. Congrats, Riley. Proud of you, bud.
Sean, go ahead.
Look, John Jones is a douche. He's always been a douche. So he's a douche at Iowa Community College. You get older, you get a little bit of money. Your brothers are famous. You think you own the world. You become a bigger douche. You get a ton of money. You can do douchier stuff. You get a world champion. The ego keeps growing. The douchiness keeps growing. Riley keeps loving you more. Like, look, you're the same person, but as circumstances around you develop, you become just that exemplified. That's what I think fame and money does to you. It exemplifies your personality. You're a good person or you're a scumbag. And John Jones, sorry, I know you got a religious tattoo on you. You're still a scumbag.
I like how you don't know that Sean is from Long Island until he says the word douche. And they're like, oh, okay,
Douche.
Yep, he's from Long Island. Got it.
Yep.
Check. All right, advancing to the finals, we got Sean and Riley. Patrick, it was a pleasure, my friend. All day Auger, baby. Anything you got to say before you go?
Riley.
Thank you, Patrick. I accept that, and I should have been winning every week as it is. So.
The bromance is real. I like it. All right, let's go to our fifth and final question. And we will start with Riley. He's in first. Well, Riley, you were in first. Do you want to go first or second?
I'll go first because I didn't even read the last question because I didn't assume I was going to make it this far. I usually get kicked out immediately. So.
This honestly,
you're welcome, baby.
Then Riley, go second. Go second, so that way you build up some.
That's not my style. I think we go first, and we go head first into this like a child with a helmet going into a board.
Let's do this. What is your, Riley, opinion on MMA journalists signing a waiver to not discuss the UFC in a negative light as it comes to their health and safety protocol? Would you consider this to be selling out? Do you think it was necessary for MMA journalists to do this? And would you have personally signed it? You are the owner, proprietor of the world-famous, world-renowned MMAintel.blog. So would you, as a representative of a .blog, would you have signed that waiver?
Of course I would have signed it, absolutely. And I think that any person who didn't sign it is – well, no, here's the thing. I don't think anybody's a sellout for signing it. If they didn't sign it, they would be a sellout because they would be adhering to the mainstream media nonsense that the UFC is evil. The UFC is this big corporation that's just screwing over everybody. And God forbid they put on fights for us, poor peasants who are just trying to be entertained by everything that's not like throwing quarters at people dying on the sidewalk. I think that listen, and also here's the other thing. A bunch of people who were bitching about the UFC putting on a fight, and then they are like, oh, I guess I'll fly there. It's like, oh, so apparently you're not worried about the COVID virus at all since you're taking an airplane to go to a place that has a large amount of COVID cases to go report on a fight that you didn't think should have happened in the first place. So, yeah, I think they should have signed it, and they should have just sat there and shut the fuck up.
21.
Sean, go ahead.
Look, I mean, it's a weird thing. Should they have had to sign it? No. I mean, First Amendment right and all that stuff. I don't like censoring journalists in any way. A journalist like Riley should be able to say whatever the hell he wants, no matter how ridiculous, no matter how many F-bombs. Was it selling out? No, because you need to make money. Your livelihood depends on it. As much as I agree with Riley and hate what a lot of these people have said and done, and I've talked about virtue signaling, at the end of the day, you have to make money. I get it. Was it like you need to do that? Was it necessary from the UFC? I mean, you get enough bad press. Like, it's necessary business wise. I mean, ethically, it's a whole different debate. I don't think you should do it ethically, but from a business sense, probably you had enough media members trying to tank you, canceling events. You're gonna go out of business eventually. You'll lose a ton of money. So you know what? Shut him up if you can. It's a smart business move. Don't agree with it ethically. Would I have signed it? Absolutely. I'm a giant whore. I need to make money, and I don't care.
By the way, same. At the end of the day, I would have signed it if I was in a position to do it. I don't think it was right, but I at the same time I would have signed it. Riley, important rebuttal here, my friend. You're at the finish line, my friend. This is important.
I want to talk about John
torpedo.
Jones really quick.
Do not torpedo this rebuttal.
I have to be ahead of him right now. I have.
You absolutely are. So Riley, you got to get this, buddy. You got to get this.
Crowd's going
well,
for
here's
Riley.
the thing. First thing, I want to agree with Sean on one thing. He really is a gigantic whore. Second off, the First Amendment, and this is just me talking as a civil libertarian and also a former history person, only applies to the government. It's stifling your speech. It has nothing to do with a private organization. So now that we've gotten past that, I would like to talk about you calling me a journalist. I'm definitely not a journalist, and if you ever throw that kind of insult at me ever again, I think I might have to fly out to Long Island and put my size 13 shoe up your fucking ass. And last and most thing,
22.
Because 22? Well, that's all right, well. Is that how much it fits or your foot? Anyways, the only journalist who should have been let in to the event because he is a great human being, a guy who should win the Nobel Prize, and a man who really just tells it how it is and should tell MMA journalists how it is because they're all a bunch of sissies. They're a bunch of turtle-headed fruits, and I don't like any of them. Front Row Brian should have been the only guy that was actually allowed into the event to report upon it upon sitting side the cage itself. And, if he needed some company, I would have came with him, but I probably wouldn't have just off of just living off my own values. So I want to say thank you to the Lord, our Savior, Jesus Christ. And by Jesus, I mean John Jones. And, I'm just looking forward to getting my first win of the old season here.
Absolutely despise what just happened right there. Sean, go ahead.
You were trying to give him the win so badly, and I don't even know where this last question just went to. Like, it's clearly questionable if he wins. I'm going to stick to the question here. Okay, maybe I shouldn't have brought up the First Amendment. The rebuttal to that is I don't like trying to censor reporters. Let's just leave it at that. Let them report. I do agree what they were spouting was nonsense, and we hit on all of the ethical and financial reasons behind it. Would I have signed it? I already said yes. Am I a giant whore? Absolutely. I still do this show every week for the thousands of followers and hope a few of you will click like over at sniper_DFS. I don't know how much more I can add to this because we're going to keep saying it. I can say the health and safety protocol was pretty impressive to me. I'm a little concerned about the whole how Jacare played out because everybody clearly knew when standoffs. That was weird, but overall not that big of a black mark. You got through it, still had events. Please let this keep happening, Dana White. We need this. I need to know where Fight Island is. And just sidebar, since I have had a few seconds, how great was in the middle of the broadcast Joe Rogan yelling at Dana White, "Where's Fight Island?"
All right. Can Patrick still win? Is that a thing that we can do?
I was just gonna say. I think you might want to give Patrick.
Can I give Patrick the win? No. Obviously, Sean is the winner.
Sean repeated his whole first statement. At least I was creative.
I don't know if that's what counts. Patrick, would you
gave me nothing to rebuttal. How am I supposed to rebuttal?
How are you supposed to rebuttal a perfect answer? Get out of here.
I could say you mentioned Jesus and I'm Jewish, but I'd take the show to a dark place.
Yeah, well, I'm something that ain't Jewish, and that's that means something to me.
He wanted to go a direction with that, and for one of the very few times was able to censor himself to not go in that direction.
I almost.
I'm a Buddhist. We pride ourselves on lighting ourselves on fire with gasoline.
Next week was almost just me and Patrick.
Patrick, would you like to pick the winner for that one?
I mean, I feel like that's a little biased because, I sacrificed myself to make sure that Riley got in the finals.
Yeah.
That was the biggest waste of a kamikaze.
Yeah, did he?
Oh, no, it wasn't. It turned out exactly how I wanted it to. I'm very happy about that decision. This sucks because, either Sean's going to hate me because he actually answered the question.
This episode has just been too much fun. I don't care. We can say Riley won it and give him a win.
You know what? I do have a clear winner. I have a clear winner, and that is Keith Schilling.
You know what? Can we all agree to give Keith Schilling the win? Can we all agree to give Keith Schilling the win?
No, because then he'll be like, "Oh, I'm the Hall of Fame motherfucker."
Yeah, even when I'm not here, I win.
Yeah,
No, I agree he won because he wasn't here, but I disagree that he won because if we tell him he won, he's actually going to think he's worth a goddamn shit. So,
yeah, I would say. I mean, yeah.
How about Riley's girlfriend wins?
hey,
Right.
she refilled my wine glass. She's all right.
And I mean, Riley does get props for. I mean, Kyle's gonna have to do some major editing on this.
No, I am not, buddy. This is going up as is. So,
Oh, well, all right then.
Whatever backlash we get is what we get, baby.
Don't tell my Jewish mother.
All right, we're out of here, guys.
Wait. Who won?
That's on you, Kyle. That's on you, Kyle. Don't put that evil on me. That's on you, Kyle.
Listen, Sean clearly won, and I'm really unhappy about it. But Sean clearly won. Riley, put your arms down. Yeah, exactly. That's what I thought.
I think he's making it a point to never win on purpose.
We're out of here.
It's okay, but silver medal's all
One of these
right.
days, you guys will actually see me try, and you'll be like, "Holy shit, this guy knows what he's talking about."
We'll see. I'm highly doubting it, but we shall see. Sean, good job. Patrick, good job. Riley, good job. You were leading every single step of the way. All right, we're out of here, guys. Thank you for tuning in.